This is the home of the greatest predator in the world, the polar bear. Living among polar bears is extremely dangerous. Yeah, they're climbing right up onto the vehicle, trying to see us in the windows. And as the polar ice melts, these polar bears are spending more time among us than ever before. I'm face to face with a polar bear. Yet, those who live in Churchill, Manitoba have found surprising ways to coexist with the bears, and that relationship might be what saves the species from extinction. This might be the most meaningful encounter I've had through all my experience here with Animalogic. These are the polar bears of the future. Hi, I'm Danielle Dufault. This is a polar bear, and you're watching Animalogic. Climate change is one of the biggest challenges of our generation. And it's not just affecting the polar bears, though that is a very serious concern. Its consequences will affect all of us. So it's time to roll up our sleeves and take action. Meet Klima, this episode's sponsor. Klima makes it easy to go carbon neutral. You start by calculating your carbon footprint. It only takes 3 minutes. Then you can immediately start putting your subscription dollars towards funding climate projects that capture or reduce the same emissions elsewhere. You'll learn how to reduce your personal footprint and can team up with friends to track your climate impact together. And it's easy to use. You'll be able to see exactly how much of a change you're making through the tree counter and the impact tracker. Join us and make a difference by clicking the link in the description below. If you sign up today using our special code, you'll get 10 extra trees planted in your name and help us create more awesome content. Let's make our planet a greener place together. Today we're in Churchill, Manitoba, paying a visit to the king of the north, the largest bear in the world, the polar bear. This is one of the largest towns on the Hudson Bay, and every year thousands of people come to see one of the greatest hunters on Earth. Churchill was originally a port built by the Hudson Bay Company to ship pelts to England and as a fort to protect Canada from an invasion from the Arctic. As demand for fur dwindled and national security concerns shifted elsewhere, the town of Churchill became an afterthought. In the late 40s, it was such a forgotten area that Britain had plans to conduct nuclear tests in the region. This would have likely killed the entire bear population. But the weather was too harsh for the British nuclear scientists, and they chose to detonate their bombs in the outback of Australia instead. The town only became notorious because of stories of bear attacks, and the issues the locals were facing with aggressive bears became international news. The problem bears were initially relocated via plane and helicopter. These dramatic scenes attracted the interest of environmentalists and celebrities who traveled to town to see the bears. These were some of the first polar bear watching tourists. This is one of the southernmost polar bear populations and one of the most accessible. The geography of the town, as well as the several freshwater rivers that flow into the bay, make the water here freeze earlier than in some more northerly locations. Bears start arriving in the summer and stay on land until the fall. Late October is the best time to see them, as it's when the ice starts to form and bears venture out onto the ice to look for seals. Though if you come here in July, you can see fat bears returning from the ocean and frolicking among wildflowers. One of the few places in the world where this happens. Regardless of the season, driving outside of town requires extreme caution. This really isn't a place that I'd recommend going for a nighttime jog, unless of course you're faster than a polar bear, which, spoiler alert, you're not. Polar bears are incredibly fast and powerful on land, but they're technically marine mammals. They're found throughout the Arctic's ring of life. Their scientific name, Ursus maritimus, means the bear from the sea. This is because for most of the year, they're out on the Arctic ice looking for its favorite prey, seals. In a couple months from now, these seals will only be able to breathe by popping up through breathing holes in the ice. And this guy here, he's gonna make a pretty delicious meal for a polar bear in a couple months. The entire biology of their digestive system is geared towards the consumption of marine mammal fat. Seals are a relatively easy prey because they come out of the water to breathe through breathing holes. Polar bears' huge schnozzes can sniff a breathing hole from over a kilometer away and will patiently wait for a seal to surface. Once they do, they grab it with their gigantic arms and pull it out of the water. Then, a bite to the head is the coup de grace. When the ice melts, this population of polar bears has to come to land and wait until the ice freezes again. During that time, they don't eat much. By this time of year, the bears have been fasting for over 4 months, so they're starving. And I'm out here looking like a tasty snack. Summertime is the lean months for bears, and they have to make do with less nutritious food. Studies have found not only birds, eggs, and small mammals, but also vegetation like grasses and berries in their feces. Sometimes, if they're lucky, a whale will wash ashore and provide a very welcome meal. And on very rare occasions, larger bears have been seen catching the belugas that come to give birth in the Churchill River. But these are only occasional treats, and bears will usually go hungry for about 15 weeks. Today is going to be an opportunity of a lifetime, and I can't tell you how excited I am. We're going to be going out with Lazy Bear Expeditions on this giant tundra crawler to go and meet some bears on their turf. I can't wait. These trucks are absolutely massive. The windows are about 3 meters high to prevent even the largest bears from trying something sneaky. Oh yeah, they're climbing right up onto the vehicle, trying to see us in the windows. And the observation deck gives us the best view of this majestic tundra landscape. This is almost worse traffic than Toronto. Arctic traffic. Currently on the observation deck of this Arctic crawler, and I'm as safe as can be up here. Even the tallest polar bear can't reach me. It can see me from below though. Right now, we're entering the wildlife management area, the best place to safely see polar bears in the region. But out on the tundra, wildlife can be difficult to spot. Welcome to everyone's favorite game. Is it a rock or is it an animal? Rock and roll, baby. That's an Arctic fox. Oh, negative 50 points. That's a rock. Nope, that's just me reaching rock bottom. What, you thought that was a rock? No, polar bear.
Loser.
Nope, that's Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock. All right, let's see the points on the board.
Loser.
This has been Animalogic's Is It a Rock or Is It an Animal? Tune in next week. After a few hours out on the tundra, we finally spotted our first couple of bears. But they were far away and in an inaccessible spot for us. They're right there. Oh my gosh. They've just been resting right in the trees. So we kept searching, and then magic happened. Oh, wow. And there it is. It's our first big, beautiful bear. This polar bear's just taking himself for a little stroll down the side of the Hudson Bay. Now he's probably scanning the shoreline looking for washed up seals or belugas. Any kind of marine mammal would be an easy snack for him if it washed up. And then it got even better. A mama and her yearling cub who came straight up to us to check us out. Oh my god, wait, how many are there? There are two. Two polar bears. This is one of the most magical moments animal lovers can experience. Seeing an apex predator gently approach you and look at you from just a few centimeters away can be life-changing. It's the reason every year over 10,000 ecotourists come here to get a glimpse at the king. No joke, I'm getting so emotional. Mama's coming to see us. I'm face to face with a polar bear. She's curious to see us.
Don't get too close. It's not cute. It has claws longer than your fingers.
I'm not putting my hand on the thing, don't worry. I don't plan on touching it. And just to tell you, I'm not lying. Smelling my boot. I don't even know how to feel right now, but my eyes can't stop crying. This mama bear is just one of the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen. This might be the most meaningful encounter I've had through all my experience here with Animalogic. I am just so beyond emotional about this, and they're truly fearless. But I feel honored that this bear is giving us some time of its day and showing us its extreme curiosity. Up close, after their beautiful long faces and their bright, curious eyes, the next thing you notice is their gigantic paws. Most of the animals up here have large feet to prevent from sinking into the snow, but polar bears take that to the next level and have evolved these enormous furry paddles. Out in the open water, bears have to swim between ice islands in search of better feeding opportunities. And when the ice melts, they often have to swim back to the mainland. Polar bears can swim vast distances, and some have been recorded to swim up to 800 kilometers over a few days. These trips can be absolute odysseys, and the average adult bear can swim up to 40 kilometers in a single go. This, of course, takes a massive toll on them, and most yearlings don't survive them. To protect themselves from the cold, they have the advantage of being absolutely massive and having a thick coat of fur. Their round shape helps them lose less heat via the skin by decreasing their surface to volume ratio. Like other northern animals, these guys have smaller ears and shorter legs, all to help retain heat. All the animals out here are basically striving for the same thing: become an orb, obviously. And the reason for that is because an orb has the lowest surface area to volume ratio, and that means it's the best for heat retention. Their coat has 2 layers of dense fur, and below that, there's at least 10 centimeters of fat tissue. Blood vessels attached to their fat deposits can be opened or constrained to help in thermoregulation. They're also giving us a wonderful view of the fuzzy underside of their feet, which is what helps retain heat and pad them from the frigid cold on the ice. All of this is necessary for survival, but while cubs build the bulk to be independent, they'll have to rely on mom. This pair you see behind me is a mother and her cub. The cub is probably getting very close to 2 years, at which point it's time to go forge its own path. But for now, there's still time to take a cozy afternoon nap with mom. My heart. So this mama polar bear is probably somewhere between 400 and 500 pounds. But at peak weight, she'd probably be more like 700 or 800. The reason why she probably lost so much weight is right behind me. Having a cub is a massive investment for the mother, and that usually means losing up to half of their body weight, just in pure energy expenditure. The Churchill population is notorious because cubs become independent when they're 1.5 years old, as opposed to 2.5 in other populations. The availability of food and denning sites makes their youth a bit easier than that of bears in other areas. The area around Churchill is rich in peat, and dens built in this kind of soil are especially warm, feeling around -5 even when it's -30 outside. For an animal this well equipped for the cold, it must feel like a warm, comfy sauna. When the cubs grow older, they come back to their baby dens. But these pampered bears are becoming the exception, and soon their world might change forever. Though global populations are relatively stable, some populations are declining, mostly due to the shortened winter season in the Arctic. You've probably seen pictures of starving bears on melting sea ice, and though that's obviously worrying, there's another issue that we'll be forced to tackle within the next couple of decades: human-bear conflict. Luckily, the experiences of Churchill give us a roadmap to deal with these situations. While many aggressive bears were successfully relocated, unfortunately, some kept coming back and had to eventually be put down when they got into town. Luckily, there were still military buildings from the old fort days, and an idea came up to lock up the problem bears. It was a 3-strike type of situation. On their first strike, they'd be locked up for a couple of weeks. On their second strike, they'd be locked up until November. On their third strike, they'd be caught and placed in a zoo or put down if nobody could take them. But bears were still coming into town, and it was discovered that it was the dumpster that attracted the bears the most. More importantly, cubs that were coming to the dumpsters with their moms were more likely to return to town when they were older. That's right, the babies were getting bad habits from their mom. The dumpster was also dangerous for them, as they would basically eat anything with a scent. Antifreeze, battery acid, car oil, anything. The likelihood of intoxication is very high, so the town of Churchill shut it down. The town now ships all of their garbage to a dump far away from bears. The money from tourism helps fund these measures to protect bears, but there might be issues that money can't fix. Though the global population of bears is hard to estimate and seems to be at the moment relatively stable in some parts of their range, there are areas where they're declining. Polar bears don't travel nomadically around the Arctic, but rather they stay within certain limits called subpopulations. The most studied subpopulations are those of the Hudson Bay and the Beaufort Sea, and there's strong evidence that they're declining. Longer summers mean longer fasting periods, which lead to lower reproductive rates. In some cases, males will even eat cubs. In the Hudson Bay, they're also facing extra threats from orcas and grizzlies, which are finding it easier to survive here. Grizzlies are smaller, but can usually beat up a polar bear in combat. Orcas used to stay away from the bay because sea ice would restrict access. But now, with less ice, they're able to get in and take seals and belugas. This competition for resources will affect the polar bears negatively. Despite being surrounded from all angles by these big tundra vehicles, this polar bear is just going for a stroll, not a care in the world. Whole reason? Because it is an apex predator. There's nothing out here that's going to be hunting it, so what is there to be afraid of? More bears are getting into human settlements, which often leads to them being killed. In some areas, there's a belief that polar bears are increasing because they're seen more around town. But this more likely means that they're there because they can't find proper food elsewhere. Following Churchill's example of identifying and removing problem bears, removing access to garbage dumps, and having a system in place for chasing away the curious bears will save both bear and human lives. Churchill's strategy might not suit every community in the Arctic, but it does give a well-documented case study on how to deal with human-bear conflict. Hopefully, more northern communities within the polar bear's natural range will follow this example, and this majestic species will continue to thrive and sploot for years to come. Oh my gosh, it's just a bear sploot. I see my cat do this at home, but seeing the largest carnivoran in the world do the same pose is just mind-blowing. So that was it. Thanks for joining us on our polar bear adventure. It's been an experience of a lifetime for me to see so many of these amazing bears out here. Don't forget to subscribe and keep on following for new episodes every week. Thanks for watching. See ya! I do kind of feel like we're on the set for the thing. A little bit more snow, and I'd get scared. Never know who to trust out here.